This is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
And I'm Nancy Richards.
We're both in our old lady gears again. I have my indoor hoodie and my blanket on.
I'm my shawl. It's a little,
We're frail old ladies.
yeah, well, not frail, but just, yeah.
We're very frail. We're just a little wind knocks us over these days, and
We can
we're
still put
old.
up the fight, but
Yeah, we
we
can.
just need a we just need a little rest afterwards. So
We do. I was just saying, I have a local band asked me to come to their show. My brother's in it, and they're and they said they go on at 10, and I said, "Oh, PM?" They really need to. I agree with Jamie Lee Curtis when she said, they need bands and musicians and acts. They need to do matinees.
so um yeah, well, I could do like my joke is I could do one thing a day. So
Yeah,
I work today. So the fact I'm doing a podcast, that's a big deal. So I'm doing two things today.
yeah, and well, now it's like, well, I can go out on Friday or Saturday, but under no circumstances am I doing both anymore.
Well, but we can talk about a lot of things on the podcast, so we can do that.
We
We have a
can.
lot to talk about.
You went to an interesting local training yesterday, revolving around ICE.
Yes.
So what was that specifically about? Was it protocols or was it
So
just sort of like what to do?
the group Hands Off NYC,
Mhm.
um, they organized different uh, meetings throughout the city. So there was one on Staten Island yesterday at the College of Staten Island. Um, and in that, it was kind of a little bit of introduction to like kind of being active a little bit, but then they got to the nitty-gritty in regards to um, it was really kind of how to assist on a very entry level.
Mhm.
This was more about like, like legal stuff and um, there are more people that are more involved. But this was generally kind of like what people can do if they feel like they just want to do something, they don't know what to do. Um, the majority of the people in attendance were older white people in regards to, so they're not necessarily being targeted, I found. Um, some of the groups, there was a lot of people there who have been active already, people that we've already seen. But for the most part, they kind of gave out there was two types of clarifications of because ICE is already here and they're going around, they're sniffing around, they've been to a food pantry, they're already coming in, but there there's two places when ICE comes to the door versus when ICE comes to the car. There's certain rights that people have. You know, you're better off if they come to the door because they can't let you in without a judicial warrant. And they kind of showed what that looked like. Um, but when they come to the car, ICE has a lot more jurisdiction because they can, you know, search your car if they have um,
Reasonable
you know,
suspicion, probable cause.
reasonable suspicion. So therefore, that's where so what do you and I do? Because they're not pulling us over, you know?
Right. Well, just to be clear, the reasonable cause, suspicion or probable cause usually is discussed in the context of a crime. Here, the probable cause is you're probably an immigrant, so we're searching you.
Right. So, but in regards to knowing your rights, there's the part of like the residence. Now, there's private homes, apartments, shelters, supportive housing. Now, there is being in your home, and then there's also the word curtilage. I don't know if you've heard that word, which is the area immediately surrounding a home. So, like if you're, let's say, trimming your Christmas tree on your lawn, they can't come up to the, and they can only go in unless they have a warrant,
Hmm.
So even though you are um, technically outside of your house, that is still considered curtilage, and that's a word that um, so they advise people to don't speak, don't show, don't sign anything. Um, they don't have to give anything unless they have a judicial warrant. ICE cannot enter your home. Don't give them any documents. And then the judicial warrant has specifically, you would see at the top of United States District Court, whereas a lot of times ICE is just presenting these Homeland Security things that aren't the same thing. They aren't judicial warrants. So kind of looking at knowing the difference. And then there is knowing your rights in public spaces. So that would be like on the street, in the workplace, courthouses, driving in a car, and which is less. So um, ICE does not need a judicial warrant. They only need reasonable suspicion. Once again, don't speak, don't show, don't sign anything. Um, but ICE has more ability to get you. Now, if you witness this, what do you do? First thing is you document it. Never interfere with ICE agents. That's just number one. But you can, shout things. The word that they use is the word salute,
Hmm.
and they gave us phone numbers to call. So the word salute is an acronym for when you report the size of, so in regards to like there's 8 ICE agents or 5 ICE, a company with like say 2 police officers. The action that they're doing, are they checking IDs? Are they apprehending people? The location, um, what are they wearing, their uniform, the time and date, and the equipment that they're carrying. Um, and then you present it, but you present this information, I'm sorry, um, to this phone number, and then those people will intervene or come in, like these are the lawyers. You and I, the people at the beginning stages, you're there really maybe to document it, to kind of also give this information out to people. So I got a ton of Know Your Right cards, and there's a QR code, and you scan this, and this comes up knowing your rights in English and in Spanish.
Is
Um,
is there a digital version?
a
Because we can,
digital version? What do you
yeah,
mean?
like so we could put that maybe in our show notes for people.
Um, well, there's the QR code, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, um, but you could also go to wo- knowkings.org.
Hmm.
That would have it. Know your rights.
Hmm.
Also, you can go to Hands Off NYC as
Okay.
well. You could put those links in our show notes. Um, So the important thing is if you and I see something to document it and to report it. Um, and the reason why is for accountability, because this number that I'm going to give in a moment is going to go directly to Tis James's office where they're making a running account. It also puts pressure on them to stop. So if they notice that there are a lot of people or,
Sort of
if
like what happened on Canal Street with Polka Dot Dress Woman.
right, right.
Hmm.
Um, and also it's it more community engagement kind of prevents ICE from coming in. Um, so and deters them. So for example, if you're made aware, for example, the food pantry immediately put the people that were waiting outside inside, and then apparently ICE knocked on the door. They don't have to let them in.
Hmm.
So, but if those people were standing outside waiting for food, that's, ICE could have grabbed if they were there earlier. So this is like being made aware. So the phone number, if you see ICE, you call 1-229-304-8720. This is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and it's also in Spanish. Um, and we should get that number out there. And then that's where um, the teams will go in and kind of collect this information. Also, when you text these people, it also goes out to a network of numbers where, because a lot of people already have um, like these text chains on their phones and they're being alerted that ICE is in their area. So this is what that phone number does. Is that phone number out goes out to the networks and sends these text messages, where people are, where ICE is. But never intervene, like never get in between the
No.
agent. Um, and the idea is to delay. Um, so you could say things like, do you have a judicial warrant? Who are you? Identify yourself. House is outside. Do not open your gate. So like if you see like your neighbor. And then they also gave us these whistles. I don't, they
Well,
gave,
actually, that's actually been a big technique in Chicago. I've seen a lot of videos in Chicago of people doing that from cars on street corners. Some people are using the cars themselves, beeping the horns in neighborhoods to provide some advance warning. And so it's sort of that's a really common technique actually that I've seen in the
yeah.
videos, Instagram and stuff.
So this is what they're doing here. You're allowed to film. You're allowed to yell. You're allowed to sing.
Hmm.
You can annoy them. You're allowed to express your opinions, but you do not physically interfere with an ICE operation. Your responsibility is to document and disseminate that information and delay the operations that you're witnessing. That's really what um, you and I can do. Um,
What about social media as far as like videos and stuff? I've seen a lot of videos, but
well, that
do they suggest, is there any precautions or protocols about that?
yeah, well, that's the documentation of
Yeah. Well, I thought
docu
just like recording the video, but like, is there any caution about posting a video?
no, they didn't say anything like that. Well, like yesterday, we didn't take pictures of each other who were at the, me, in regards to that. But if ICE is there, you document. And the other thing I heard that was interesting is you don't necessarily ask for the people's, some people are like, what is your name? Sometimes they're not giving names. So, you know, what you might want to ask the person if they're being taken is, who would you like me to contact? Is there a person to contact? Because, you know, sometimes they're picking people up from, a school.
Random, yeah.
Yeah. And now that I'm seeing here is they're picking up people at at schools at food pantries. So one of the things that we all kind of met and is there's a food pantry around the corner from my house to kind of alert, like that's a good place to go online and give out these cards and information. I gave some out today. I went into some stores and gave out these cards. And then, or the stickers. Or
Well,
if you know some
if you have some of those left, I can see if I can put them at my church's food pantry. My church has one, and the first Saturday of every month they do it. And so I don't know if, we don't
well,
ask,
they're here. So,
we don't ask what the status of the people coming in are, but that might be helpful.
no, but you just hand the card and if, and I'm thinking that a lot of people that are truly being impacted by this have already set up networks, you
Mm.
know, but this is, a way to get out information. Um, and I'm going to give a few people, my neighbors, I don't know, um, if they know somebody or if they're already on it. But just to give out this information at food pantries, and then also too, like La Colmena, you know, they're already doing like daily morning walks through Port Richmond. Um, you know, because they're making a presence in the community, um, because ICE is already here. So this is stuff that's happening right now. So people want to get active. This is what you do.
What did they say about like cases that they know of where, you mentioned the number to call for legal assistance and for lawyers. And so what has been the success of these lawyers actually getting in contact with these people? Because what
So
we've
this
seen, yeah,
organization wasn't about that. This organization was really more about kind of training people to know what their rights were and where to call to report things.
okay.
So they really were it seemed like more people who were involved in the audience who understood things like that. Um,
Yeah, because I'm thinking back to like Kilmar Abrego Garcia and Mahmoud Khalil and
Also the
yeah,
some of the people I met who were helping Sarah out, the young
yeah,
woman who went to Porchman, they were there at the training.
yeah.
And they're still working with her. Um, and getting her at least to come get back here to New Jersey or New York. So there's because living in a sanctuary city, you have certain um, rights in regards to habeas corpus and y- rights to see a lawyer, things like that. So
Yeah, because those people I mentioned, like Abrego Garcia, Mahmoud Khalil, there was the student who was sort of taken randomly because of an op-ed she wrote. None of those people, all of those people had great difficulty accessing attorneys,
yeah.
even though the attorneys eventually got to them and they were freed, and some of those cases are still ongoing and have a lot of moving parts to them. But so I would be curious to see like if those people actually do connect with the lawyers.
So this organization was not about that information, and that meetings were not about that. These meetings were more about disseminating your rights in your home as opposed to being in a car. And one of the things I got from this is kind of knowing the right information because uh, we feel a need that we want to do something. Um, so here it was just kind of keeping this simple, like um, if ICE is knocking on a door, your neighbor's door, tell them they don't have to open the door. Sometimes people just don't know that, you
Yeah.
know, don't open the door. Ask, ask to see a warrant, show it in the window, slide it under the door, but they do not have to open the door. Um, and if ICE is doing something illegal, you document it. You can take, photographs, you can take video. Um, and then you call that phone number that I just said, and then that's the network that kind of you know, records all this information.
And did they, I know Port Richmond is a hot
And then there's
spot.
a yeah, Poor Richmond's, but
Have they
you
been
know,
anywhere else? Is it just Port Richmond? Is there, or there are other places as well?
um so uh I haven't heard any other places yet. So Port Richmond seems to be the hot spot right now. But there are other vulnerable places. Like I think, for example, and and a lot of people weren't really working with the area near, on Targhee, but a lot of people that are, West Africans who are in front of Home Depot on Targhee, I still see people there. Um, and I don't know there was nobody there directly talking about that part of Staten Island. Um, there's also areas like in Graniteville, that are too also, but that's also near Port Richmond. Um, Also too, there was a contingency of South Shore people. Because I'm wondering if people are very vulnerable on the South Shore because it's so conservative, people might not be as like empathize or sympathize with people that are being targeted on the South Shore. So there's a need all over the island to be watchful and to give out information and to show a form of solidarity with people who are, they're targeting, black and brown people. And I had also asked, because there's a large Chinese population, um, are the Chinese being targeted? But nobody really knows about that. They seem to be that it seems to be more Hispanic that they're targeting.
Well, and this is certainly something that we're going to keep our eyes on. I definitely want to put all of the information that you just put out there into our show notes so our listeners have it. And, I think one of the ways that we're starting to see a crack in Trump's power is just his disapproval rating on issues that were once strong for him. So the economy was a very strong issue. He's underwater there. Immigration he's also underwater because, again, believe I said
Well,
this last
people are
week.
beginning to clearly see that
Yeah.
he's not grabbing criminals. He's grabbing, someone who is, following the law, who's paying taxes. And when people say that they're illegal, a lot of these people are, in process of their documentation.
Well,
Um,
surprise, surprise, he lied to you. I mean,
yeah.
where his
I mean,
lips moving, he was lying.
I know someone who's been here their most of their life, and they don't have their citizenship, but there's a long process of things that happen and steps that you need to take. It just doesn't happen immediately. But so you're in the process of it. So you're you're technically, when they say an undocumented worker, but there are people who are documented in essence of they're going through the process. And
So
these
they're
people are getting picked up.
so they're in limbo already, and
Right.
then this happens, and so uh, well, it's definitely something we're going to remain on top of. But we do, it's a really interesting training. I'm actually happy that it's happening on Staten Island. A lot of people might not believe that we do care about these things, but we do, and so I think that that was a really important thing, and we'll put all the information definitely in our show notes so if people are aware and know uh, what to do and who to contact and all that. But we do have other issues to get to, and
Okay.
yeah.
So before we go to the others, just to reiterate the word salute, the you know so you the acronym for salute, like, you see something and you report it, the size, the action, the location, the uniforms or the clothes, the time and date, and the equipment and weapons that they have. And then you can call that 229 number, 304-8720. uh Also, know your rights. You can go to workings.org or Hands Off NYC to get the basic know your rights. This is not what to do with a lawyer. This is your basic, if they're knocking at your door, if they're coming to your car, what you have and what you don't have.
Yeah, and so that'll be interesting. We'll definitely stay on top of it, and I think it actually ties into what we're going to talk about next really well because uh, I think what I've seen over the last couple of days and the last few weeks is just this notion, that Trump is big, scary, and inevitable, that he'll be here forever. That's starting to crack. And that's starting to crack on a number of fronts. And so he's had a lot of very high profile failures over the last month and a half or so. So, of course, the Epstein files were released despite all efforts to the contrary by him and his administration. Uh, the Doge, which was a big thing at the beginning of this administration, the Department of Government Efficiency, I was told it was going to save trillions of dollars and make government more efficient. It actually ended with a whimper a few days ago, with actually none of that being accomplished. In fact, we're actually on track to spend more than we were last year. And so none of that panned out the way it was supposed to be. The elections over the last month, total washout for Trump and for Republicans. I would also say the redistricting efforts that he put so much into in Texas, in other places, even though the Supreme Court has kept it alive, temporarily. I think that that's come to a halt. And in fact, if Democrats proceed with redistricting, Democrats may actually be ahead of the redistricting now. And uh, so just the failures of these political prosecutions today, the charges against Jim Comey and Letitia James were both dropped. This
Yep.
is the courts in Virginia said that the reporter Lindsay Halligan was appointed unlawfully. And of course, the administration is going to appeal that, and we're going to see that where that goes. It'll probably go to the Supreme Court. Who knows if they'll hear it? But that's so I see some cracks that show me that maybe this is not big, and there's still a fight ahead. I'm not, making light of it or trying to, I'm not naive about it. But I've been feeling a little bit less apocalyptic, I would say, over the last month and a half or so, because things have happened that have shown me, maybe this is not forever. What do you think?
So I still feel apocalyptic. I I but in what agreement you say is I believe that the system is working. I believe that people are, pushing back, and you're seeing that he's things are that are in place are working. In regards to what rights we have, in regards to with the courts, throwing out the Comey case where the judge is like, look, you didn't present everything, fully to the grand jury. You didn't have the right jurisdiction to bring this case up. I think that's what was the technicality that um,
And
the
just the way that this prosecutor was brought in was the major thing, but that also played a role too.
Yeah, so like those things in place where the judges are like, "No, I'm sorry." So there are things that are working. People are voting and it's having impact. People are showing up at rallies, it's having impact. So, I see that, but a lot of the decisions that he's making concern me, like the whole thing with Ukraine. I feel so bad for Ukraine right now. Um, here is a country that has been invaded and they're being treated, once again, like if this isn't an abusive relationship, like one moment Trump's like, I'm gonna help you, and the next moment he's like, oh, you gotta listen to what Russia says, and then he's back. It's just
There's,
and
there's a
what
lot
does
of whiplash. There's a lot of
yeah, it's
whiplash.
a lot of whiplash. What does that say about us on the international stage, in regards to our apparent allies? What are they thinking of us these days? That deal makes Neville Chamberlain's deal look, good. Um, so those things concern me. The fact that he's not bringing down prices, that the market is up
Well,
and down.
we knew he wasn't going to do that, but
Yeah, but yeah, so a lot of the decisions that he's making are not, they're reckless.
well, yeah,
And
absolutely. I think, but I always, I think that again, he wants us to all think. He wants us to be, first of all, he wants us to be in, a constant state of dread all the time. He wants us to uh, basically think that he's never going to go away, that he's inevitable, that everything that he, touches somehow works out for him, and it has. Why shouldn't he think that? I think that at the beginning of the year, when he won the popular vote, he swept all seven swing states. You see all these major institutions bowing and capitulating to him, media, law firms, academic institutions, uh, all of these things that are a sign of the capitulation to me signals that those institutions and those people thought that this was forever. And so, you better get used to it. But I think now we're starting to see people push back, and I think we started to see that with No Kings. I think we're seeing that with the elections. And just, not only are people pushing back, but I always, have to remind myself these people are evil, but they're fucking stupid. And
Yeah,
they, they are
still,
fucking stupid. And like
but
this, this,
these are the people in power, so they're making stupid moves, but they're in power.
oh, I know.
So
And I think in a lot of ways their stupidity is a double-edged sword because
yeah,
the stupidity is, could be catastrophic. It could be dangerous, but I also think it's something that'll save us ultimately.
I think our Constitution will save us.
Well, we'll see.
So
We're
I
hoping, I hope
well
so.
we I think people abiding by it and going, no, 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 I'm sorry, that's actually, following the rule of law. Um, but I mean, look at what happened this week with certain members of Congress who you know, made the notion of what you that members of the military um, can't do something. They don't have to follow an illegal
Okay.
law, which is something that they're taught in the military. And, he said that they were punishable by death, that action.
Well,
And I
and
heard they're going to
Pete,
go after Mark Kelly now.
yeah, Pete Hegseth said he was going to do that, but I, uh, I think that the fact that people are pushing back at all is a good thing, and not just Democrats who were in that video. It was Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin and a few others. But they are. We're also seeing, Indiana state Republicans stop their redistricting. And there just wasn't enough support amongst themselves, amongst Republicans to do it. And I have to give credit because they say it was Mike Pence, because that's his home state, and he was really behind the scenes telling the governor and telling legislators that he knew in that state, not to do this. But they stopped it. Kansas Republicans stopped their redistricting. And with no fear, with all kinds of pressure being put on them. Trump was threatening to primary all of them. And one of the members of the Indiana legislature, I believe, got their houses doxxed. So, not light pressure and, doing the things that they do. And but they did not continue despite pressure from Trump to do so. And so the tide, at least for now, has seemed to turn in the direction of uh, democracy. People, as Eileen, our guest last week, said, red or blue, people tend to like the democracy. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's where things are going. And he's not inevitable. Nothing is inevitable.
Well, yeah, I'm just concerned that he'll make moves that will, be damaging and reckless, and that's what I'm afraid of. Um, he says things that, now those members of Congress have to have extra security.
Yeah,
Um, I'm worried about violence in that aspect, because of certain things he says. Can we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, like why she left?
of course. Yeah. Well, that was interesting. I was at dinner on Friday night with one of my friends, and I got that notification. I was like, "What the fuck?" I sent it to you, and you were like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. But why is she leaving? Now, I heard she's leaving because she didn't want to face a bad primary. And
Well,
what
she
does
did.
that mean to face a bad, what's a bad primary? The fact
Well,
that
she
she's
said
going to
that.
lose or
Well, she said that. She said she didn't say necessarily that she thought she was going to lose. What she said was that, you know, if there was going to be a primary, it was likely going to be a situation where tens of millions of dollars were going to be pumped into whoever decided to run against her. And Trump would obviously be invested in that race just to make a point.
but
Uh,
why wouldn't she put up that fight? I don't understand.
Well, I think she's genuinely disillusioned. I do think she's genuinely disillusioned by the political process and running for office and the Congress itself. But I also think she thinks that, she could be of use to the MAGA movement elsewhere, perhaps on a platform like this, a podcast or some other media outlet. I think that's where she's going. I don't think she rides off into the sunset. I think this is, she goes into a media career.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm really on the fence in regards to how I feel about Marjorie Taylor Greene, like in regards to um I thought she was a little bit of a pit bull, and I thought she had a little bit more of a fight in her. So I was a little kind of disappointed in that aspect, like who this person really is. Because she did put up somewhat of a fight, but was it Jasmine Crockett made because she's not giving her any leeway, Jasmine Crockett.
Neither
But
is
she was
AOC.
saying, you
Yeah.
know, you've been going through the trenches with this guy for a week, imagine what it's like for the last couple of years. So, like, you can only take the heat for a week. Now, I don't really want to judge because people can be very evil if they go MAGA people, like as far as violence. I don't know what kind of threats she's been getting, or it could be quite frightening because people do.
Yeah, well,
I've heard phone calls of people that have been calling the senators, like some recordings of people, and they're scary,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I know it's an outlier, but I think just based on what happened to Charlie Kirk and Nancy Pelosi's husband and to uh those Minnesota legislators, I think that's a real prospect. But it was, it's political violence is everywhere and it's on all sides, but it's much more prevalent on the right.
Yeah.
And it's much more prevalent on the right. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been, a thorn in our side on the left for many years. We've never threatened to kill her. Like
No.
she's been a thorn in the right side for a few months, and she's getting death threats all over the place. And so that shows just characteristically who they are.
So, in regards to, whatever she's going to do after, I also heard something that she's waiting till after January 5th so she can collect her pension.
That's what
Um,
AFC said. Yeah,
yeah, so I was kind of laughing over that.
I would do
Everybody,
it. I would do that.
oh, we pick our retirement dates, it's sometimes a strategy. So,
Yeah.
um, so I
Well,
could see that.
yeah, and I think that listen, she's still. I don't know how genuine like her trans. I wanted somebody to ask her, do you think that the 2020 election was stolen still? Do you think that that's what happened? Because Mikey Sherrill, who's going to be governor of New Jersey, in the January 6th committee a few years ago, in one of their closed door hearings, said that she saw uh, members of Congress giving like reconnaissance tours a few days before the insurrection at the Capitol, and Marjorie supposedly was one of those people giving these reconnaissance tours. And so I would, if I'm going to assess her authenticity on this, I want to know, do you still think that election was stolen? Do you think what happened on January 6th was still right? Do you regret going to visit prisoners who were beating up law enforcement? And brutalizing police officers. Like those are the things I would ask her.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely will because uh, I yeah, I don't know what to make of her yet. Like, it's a bit of a thaw. I think some people have given her like carte blanche, whereas there are people who are still very critical of her, like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. Um, and like, not so fast. I give her credit for stepping
I'm,
up,
yeah, I'm
but
I'm in the middle on that too. I
yeah,
think
I
I'm
agree. Me too.
I think
So,
I think that we should. I've always said this. I think when somebody decides they want to wake up and admit that they were lied to, and admit that they were deceived and misled by a cult leader, then we
yeah,
should listen.
allow them to
And
wake up.
yeah,
So,
allow them to wake up and welcome them back to reality. But I think that for her, like I don't know if she's truly woken up yet because I want to hear those questions. Like
yeah,
I want to know if
because
I know she's apologized. I know that, she's attempted to express remorse, but I want to ask her, like, do you still think that election was stolen? Do you still think that, are you still sympathetic to the people who were beating and brutalizing law enforcement?
right. And also on a different topic, she's got a congressional immunity. She could, read some of the Epstein files or reveal some of the Epstein files. Couldn't people do that?
Well, they
And
haven't been released yet, but they have, according to this bill that was passed, they have the Justice Department has 30 days. Now, I'm sure they'll come up with some ways to stonewall it. But I think that what she has read, I think, is what we've all seen, and those are the documents that were provided by the Epstein estate, not what the Justice Department has. And so I think, and I'm sure there'll be more of those to come. I don't think those were the first and last. I think there's going to be definitely more where that came from, just from those set of documents. But I give her credit on being firm on the Epstein files, not giving into pressure. Trump was going to definitely lose that vote, even if he hadn't said go ahead and vote to the Republicans. There were going to be dozens, from what I was reading, of defections on that. And
yeah,
so I think that uh, I give her credit on being consistent on that. I give her credit on putting the heat on Republicans. Now, even though Senate Democrats have caved at the end of the shutdown, the public still largely blames Trump and the Republicans for it. And I think that's in no small part to lead people like her criticizing their own party over it.
which thank I will thank her for that. So
Yeah.
recognizing, and I also too a lesson to the Democrats also that they too need to recognize when things that they're doing are wrong or
Mhm.
not working. That I think that would be also a good lesson.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And we'll see where she lands. I'm sure it'll be on the podcast circuit and in media somehow. I don't think she's done completely. I don't think she's off the scene completely, but I think she's gonna switch into the media space. So we'll be uh
well, she's in Congress till January 5th,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. So she'll be
So,
so she'll be, she'll maybe take a few weeks in between and then she'll launch her podcast the way that Ted Cruz has and some others. And so I think that's where she's going to be. But for now, I think what I found really interesting was that meeting between Trump and Zohran Mamdani. I thought that was just amazing on so many different levels.
yeah, he you know how Trump normally wears his blue suit and red tie.
Yeah.
Um, so there was a photograph of him today, like in a black coat with a red scarf, and the
Yeah.
meme was like, is Mondami having an impact on his fashion sense?
Yeah, well,
So
I was like, since when do you fucking wear turtlenecks? Like,
yeah,
it was like, since when do you wear turtlenecks? And then he's going
him to
out there
slick
and
back his hair,
yeah.
so
And
get a
then, well,
haircut.
oh, and I mean, I watched a little bit of the appearance that they both had in the Oval Office, and just the way that Trump says, "Oh, you could call me a fascist."
I, he got him out of a sticky situation. This is where I don't like reporters. Like that was a gotcha. Like reporters tend to be things like that. Like, did that need to be necessary?
I
Um,
think that was a good question. And to be fair to the reporters, they did say to him, do you think you're standing next to a jihadist? And
oh,
and,
that's right. They did
and
say that
yeah,
too.
and so
So
and he said, no, I don't. And it was actually a quote from somebody who he keeps throwing under the bus, Elise Stefanik. She's been under the bus like 3 or 4 times already, and she's been calling him a jihadist, and
well, I
he
also heard it's down 20% from Kathy Hochul. So
she is, and Kathy Hochul was actually a little spicy on Chris Hayes earlier this week
spicy.
when
I
she
like
said,
a spicy Kathy.
I do too, and she said that she's full of shit, which I like that. She
But
goes,
I do like that meeting. I'm glad that meeting took place. And this is what I really like about Mandami is he's not conventional and he's going to do things that he feels works. It's interesting during the debates they were talking about like I think it was Curtis Sliwa who was saying, I'm going to work with uh with Trump because he's going to he gives us vital funding. There's a certain reality that you have to play nice with the federal government because they do offer things. And Mondami didn't say he wouldn't work with Trump. He said, I will be glad to talk to him on certain issues, but I'm not going to, hold back, blah, blah, blah. And the media took that like as, you know, he's not going to work with. And then right away, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. I will talk to Donald Trump if he's willing to talk about this, this, and this. And they went to the White House and they talked about things that they both agreed with, like affordability, and we'll see how far Trump goes on any of this. But um,
Well, the only thing they agreed on there was like they agreed, Trump see because Trump was, he always says he's a builder, which, he's a con man, but he's disguised as a
but
builder.
he's a New Yorker, and then he
Yeah.
said, I do care about what happens to New York. He changes his tune a lot. But Bill Maher said something Friday that I thought was interesting because Bill Maher went to go visit him, and a
Mhm.
lot of people gave him grief for that, and he was just like, just talk to the man. You find that, um, and I think Zoran is smart for going because he played, because that's what Trump wants. He wants you to go talk to him.
Well,
And
he wants attention, and he likes the fawning aspect of it. I mean, the meeting itself was just the memes were amazing. Like where he's looking up at Zoran, and it says I posted it. It says me, and then Zoran a little treat. Well,
you
like
know,
in his and he well the thing that's I
well, the
was
meme I saw was like, I want someone to look at me like the way he looks at Zoran.
and Trump is very looksist and Zoran's hot, so I think that that's part of it, and what was amazing to me was that Mamdani got Trump to pose with him in front of a picture of FDR, probably our most democratic socialist president that we've ever had. And that was quite symbolic. And I noticed that throughout the whole meeting and interaction, I don't know what went on behind the cameras, but at least when the cameras were there, Trump was very fawning and smiley. Mamdani wasn't. He was cordial and
I thought
respectful.
Mondani was great
Oh
at the
yeah, he
meeting.
wasn't. Oh, but he wasn't like overly smiley,
Right.
like
I think
Trump
he went
gets.
in with his agenda and he did it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now here's the thing that I thought was great for Mondami is, the day before he showed up, everyone's afraid of him as the face of the Democrats. And then that after the meeting, everyone is like he's the face of the Democrats, you know. So I think that really put him in a better light. I think there's this whole boogeyman socialist crap that I can't fucking stand with centrist Democrats. Like what craziness do you think, the DSA is, aside from like some things we might find like annoying here and there, but this is a rational, creative thinking man who has great leadership skills. And I noticed that by listening to, you know, his speeches and in the election and what his plans were. And the fact that he came to Washington to show Trump that I'm not the boogeyman. I'm here to uh, you know, help New York. I'm here to run New York, and I want what's best for New York City. I think that was a great step, and I think he's going to be a good mayor.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm hoping actually that he staved off at least for a time any plans that Trump had to flood the city with National Guard or ICE or whoever. Because I've always said, I've been saying it for weeks on this podcast, that I think that that's what's coming, just a really aggressive military presence here. And I'm hoping that perhaps this,
Well, it shaved off the National Guard. He's not
yeah,
because he convinced Trump that you don't need to bring in the National Guard for crime.
yeah.
But I don't think they were in agreement on ICE. I think ICE is here regardless.
No, but I'm talking about like a suit, they haven't been in New York the way that they've been in Chicago. And so that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen, where there's a stepped up presence in the mold of Chicago. And so I'm hoping, that he staved that off, and that was really good. And I also think, Kathy Hochul has had a lot of sway over a lot of his appointments. I think his decision to keep Jessica Tisch on as a police commissioner that was very much influenced by the governor, as well as a lot of other people in the orbit. And I think,
Well, you were looking at his transition team.
yeah, and the transition team is, it's about 400 people in total. There's a few Staten Islanders on it, maybe two or three. Janos Martin,
Yeah.
I'm not sure which issue he's under because it's under a lot of, it's a broken up by category, so I don't know where
Oh, I
he's
do.
from.
He posted it. I'll tell you in a second.
But I think that Yesenia Amata, who's from La Comenia, who you mentioned earlier, she's on it. And then there's another Staten Islander who I'm not thinking of. But highlight for me is that my old boss and former mayoral contender in her own right, Christine Quinn, former speaker.
Oh, here we go. Congratulations to Dana Racklin, Janos DeMartin, Jessica Baker, um, Vudor Yesenia,
Hmm.
Bada, and Justin Wood, and Tyler Taba for being selected to Mandami's transitional team. So these are,
Four
uh,
people.
yeah, so these are the people, and he's excited, honored to the criminal legal system transition team.
Okay.
That's what he's on. So.
Yeah, and my old boss, Christine Quinn, Speaker of the City Council, former Speaker of the City Council, mayoral contender in her own right in 2013. She is also on the transition team. Her focus is social work and homelessness, women and children, which is natural. She runs a non-for-profit now with that focus. And so I'm hoping that maybe he appoints her as like the leader of the Administration for Children's Services because I think she's an excellent manager, and that's certainly a city agency that needs good management that hasn't had it in a long time. And so I'm hoping that she gets that appointment. I think that he mitigated whatever was coming from the federal government. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I think Trump will send the National Guard here at some point.
Well, he's notorious for changing his mind.
Yeah, and
So
so
he could say something that sets him off.
well, I'm thinking by the summer when the warm weather happens, I'm thinking that maybe that's when we're going to see that federal stepped up presence here. And so, but in any case, Zoran really demonstrated his political skill in that meeting with Trump, made him look like an idiot. Made Trump look like this drooling idiot. And also, sort of turn the strategy. You mentioned the boogeyman socialist before. He turned that strategy on its head because
Yeah,
if Trump says that he feels safe enough and comfortable enough to be in Zohran Mamdani's New York, then
yeah, he did
that
say that, which was
you
a
know,
big
that
move.
yeah, that undercuts any effort to say that he's some sort of socialist boogeyman. And Elise Stefanik, you know, has been thrown under the bus by Trump a million times. She's going to be UN ambassador. Then they pulled it because they were afraid of losing her seat, and now she's the now she's the Republican gubernatorial candidate for a race she's very likely going to lose against Kathy Hochul. And as the governor herself said, she's full of shit. And so I
He
think
is.
she is full of shit, and she makes Marjorie look like, Mother Teresa. And so and because Elise Stefanik is smart, she knows better. She's like what Nicole Maliotakis would be if she was smart. Like, and had any kind of personality or charisma, but she doesn't. And so,
Which people were out today at Maliotakis Mondays. There were people out. It was funny. I got a Citizen app. They were like protesting, and I'm like, what? And then I was like, oh, it's Maliotakis Monday. So they had a little live feed of what was going on there. So there was a presence every Monday. Good. Keep up the pressure. So,
yeah.
and
And
then we
now,
have the Visibility Brigade.
how was
Um,
that? How I saw it said believe the women.
I
How was
believe
that? I was
that
gonna
was,
come I was gonna come out, but I was speaking of my old ladiness, I was napping when you texted me.
oh, okay. But yeah, it was good. So, but there's nationally there's a Visibility Brigade, but it was good. People were beeping and honking, and
I got a few middle fingers when I did it. Did you?
I couldn't really see because, you're high up, but it wasn't really, I was there to, just to hold a sign and, kind of, I'm standing behind the sign, so I really can't see. But just to have a presence, period, is good. And to people that are listening out there, you don't have to do nine different thousand things. You can do one thing. The great thing about Staten Island Action Coalition is they post different ways that you can participate, whether it be from, your home, they list important phone numbers, to, actually taking an action, like, going on Mondays or, visibility or you know, another type of action. So, but it does count. People getting involved, people showing up. So it is important for people to show up. It's important for people to document, ICE coming around and giving out information to people. It's important to stay engaged, on whatever level you can. And so
Yeah,
if
well, absolutely. And I was, well, just getting back to Zoran's meeting with Trump, as Zoran was making Trump look like the drooling idiot he is, Hakeem Jeffries is in the fucking House of Representatives voting to condemn socialism. That's what he was
what?
doing. Yes, that's what he was doing.
What do
Uh,
you mean?
there was it's one of these messaging
I
bills that
missed that. What was that about?
one of the messaging bills that the GOP puts out on the floor to force Democrats to take a bad vote. And so he, along with the rest of the Democratic
Wait,
leadership,
forced to take a bad vote?
yeah,
I'm confused.
a vote that's going to make them look bad either way. So if he votes no and doesn't condemn socialists, they're going to call him a socialist.
So
If
the
he,
Republicans put out a bill to
yeah,
condemn socialism.
mhm,
Why?
to make Democrats take this vote and look bad either way. So he votes yes on this to condemn socialism. Now people from his left flank are rightly condemning him. And if he votes no, then he's called a socialist by moderates and whoever else. And so that's the idea of putting these bills on the floor. So he votes as Zoran was in the Oval Office, making Trump look like the drooling idiot he is. Hakeem Jeffries, of course, snatches defeat from the jaws of victory because that's what he does. He's a lobbyist paid robot with a teleprompter in his head who doesn't speak an authentic word ever. And he is voting against to condemn socialism. That's what he was doing.
Why? Like, why are we, what has socialism done to this country except bring Social Security and, you know, the 5-day work week and the 40-hour workday and,
Like, well, listen,
maternity
I'm
leave. Like,
I would say, listen, I'm not a socialist. I believe in regulated markets. I do believe in a strong social safety net, but I'm not a socialist. But I don't think that, I would have voted no and then explained why I voted no, that this is a bullshit vote. This is meant as a political maneuver. But
yeah.
he just doesn't have even a third grader's communication acumen, Hakeem Jeffries. And I'm so glad he's being primaried, even though a lot of people like Mamdani and AOC are not supportive of it. Neither is DSA, from what I understand. They voted, Chiasi has abandoned his bid, even though, because nobody was supporting it, because people are, saying it's not the right time or whatever. So I was fully supportive of whoever wanted to primary that guy because he's such a fucking robot. He needs to go.
Yeah, we have to, I don't mind Democrats who are in the center, but I don't like Democrats who are robots and afraid to take a stand because they're afraid about what people might say either way. Own up to what you believe, period. If
Yeah.
you're a centrist and like you don't agree with certain, socialist principles, then, st state your reasons why, but don't hide from things. And don't take those stupid votes. Like that's a stupid vote. You like my thing is, what has socialism done to this country that you have to create an act for it? That's ridiculous.
Well, it
That
is.
is,
It is ridiculous. And like I would have if I were them, like I wouldn't have even shown up to that. I would have denied them a fucking quorum to do that.
Yeah,
And
really.
like
So
I would have denied
I
them a
did not
crime.
hear that said. I did not see that. That's
Yeah.
stupid.
And it's just reason 500 why this guy should not be leader of the House
Oh,
Democrats.
God, he's going to be leader. So
I
who's
know.
challenging, who's going to
I
challenge him?
I could think of 4 or 5 people who would be better, but nobody wants to do it. I think that, Rokana would be far better. He's the guy
Well,
who
your girl, she passed the torch to him. So,
she did what, I think she made a mistake there. But I think Rokana would be really good. I think Robert Garcia is terrific. I think Summer Lee, who is another Democrat on the Oversight Committee, I think she's terrific. Jasmine Crockett's really good. AOC's really good. Um, and so there's, a million people that I could think of that would be a better fit for this position. Like, they have to pick this, automatron. Who you could
okay.
this automatron, you could see he's being wound up. Socialism is bad, and with his I hate his fucking hand motions.
You just like him more than I do, but
Ugh, he's
that move
horrible.
definitely puts me more in your camp. That's for sure.
Oh, he's terrible. Well, actually, I got together with somebody in the Brooklyn Democratic Party recently, and he did he did the most amazing impression of him with the arms and everything else. And I said, you got to come on. I said, when it's safe to do so, come on our podcast and do that. That's amazing. Like if I closed my eyes, I would have thought it was him.
That's good. So,
You know, and so
um, I'm just looking up quickly, just right off the bat. I just happened to be on PBS. Have you caught the Ken Burns American Revolution series at all?
no. Well, is there a place to watch it after it airs? Because
It's
oftentimes I
on
miss it.
it's on PBS. It's on their website, and I showed it. Um, I was subbing. I showed a piece of it at school, and I was able to access it without my Channel 13 account. So you
Oh,
could just
okay.
watch it online on Channel 13, on PBS. I'm not a big American Revolutionary person. It's not really
Me either.
my
But
my time.
he did a really good I heard about it because he did an interview on Kara Swisher's podcast with her, and it sounded really good. And I definitely want to check it out and take a look.
Well, I used the first the class that I was subbing, that's what they were on.
Hmm.
So the causes of the American Revolution. So I thought the first episode was very good in
Oh,
talking about
they were sorry, as a side note, they're way behind.
yeah, but it's different. It's a different school. They have different
Like,
yeah. No, I
where
know
would
we're on the civil yeah, I subbed at Borough. They're on the Civil War.
I'm
So
on Jackson.
yeah, no. Borough's on the Civil War. So
Oh,
you
they're way
know,
ahead of me then.
yeah, so they're in that essence. But yeah, this was, they're different set of uh it's different district, so it's not but anyhow, so I showed the first episode and it was very good. And I've been watching a lot of it, but then we get into a lot of the war part and where's really that's not really my cup of tea, but it's done very well. Um so that's on this week and you can watch it online. Um so as in a I have a little bit more of an interest in the American Revolution now, knowing that I actually have an ancestor who fought in the American Revolution.
I
So
remember, yes.
yeah, so that's why I was paying a little more attention.
Well,
And
what I like about what he does is that he draws kind of a lot of through lines and parallels to today and how we got from there to here.
yeah,
And so I really like that part of it. I think that's particularly relevant.
yeah. So yeah, so it's good. So I would highly recommend it, watching it. At least, the beginnings of the episode. So I haven't finished it, so I don't know how it ends, but I will catch up. I gotta catch up to General Hospital too.
General Hospital. I remember watching that with my grandmother.
My mom was a Channel 4 soap opera, Days of Our Lives. So I was always a Days of Our Lives. But my best friend Mary was a General Hospital. And so I kind of knew a little bit about it, like the Luke and Laura and thing back in the 80s. But during COVID, I just happened to have ABC on the loop, so General Hospital just came on. So I started to watch it more because of during COVID, and now I watch it. So I come home, I put it on as soon as I get home from school.
Yeah. Well, and finally, we have, the holiday this week. What are you up to?
Well, Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
I will be, going to family and eating just like everybody else. Um, and avoiding certain topics. So,
Well, yeah. Well, that's why I asked because, there was, my family, the ones that I'm getting together with there, you can safely talk about that with, my immediate family, which is who will be there. I, uh, I know with certain extended family,
I'm pretty good at being diplomatic because, for the most part, my family's not really political. I'm really the political person in my family. Um, and for the most part, I think my family is pretty like, centrist kind of politics. I do have someone who's a Trumper. But I avoid talking politics with my Trumper relative. But the thing that I'm not good at is if you poke the bear, which is me, then I start fighting. So I'm just hoping they don't say anything to me, because that's when I get all, oh no, you did not just say that. You just
well,
started. Wait, what was the thing we used to say
the
with
big
Big
Ann.
Ange? You don't
Oh,
know
you
what
understand what you just started, right?
yeah.
Well, my extended family, there's some vocal Trumpers, but then there are some, secret Trumpers who I know they're Trumpers, but they don't admit it. They're closet Trumpers.
They're closet Trumpers. So,
They they are closeted Trumpers. They have not come out yet.
oh, okay. Well, I don't think the Trumper that I have is not, I wouldn't call them closeted, but they're not wearing a MAGA hat, you know. I
Yeah.
wouldn't consider them MAGA, but they definitely, I know they're I know their politics. So
Yeah, well, or I call it covert MAGA. Like it's
cool.
just they're sort of under the radar covert MAGA.
Yeah.
And
So
so that's how I do it. But, we hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Avoid certain topics if you must. But
or,
also,
stand your ground too,
yeah, stand your
throw the,
ground and
and have a piece of chicken leg so you could chuck it at someone if you have to.
well, it's turkey. It's their turkey. But we also, if you need any pointers and arguments, listen to our podcast. We make good points all the time.
I think we do too. So also I have to think of, um, when you think about Thanksgiving, like I was listening to something today about, you know, somebody talking about they were this is very a more lefty perspective of, what Thanksgiving represents, the farce of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. Yeah, we all know that, okay?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but I really think today it's not really about the story of how well we treated the native because we did.
No.
But
No.
I think it's just a story of being thankful for what we have.
Yeah.
And when I go to, my family's house, there's going to be a plenty of food. Um, and I'm thankful for that. I'm not worried about where my next meal is coming from. It's difficult to pay for my next meal, but I'm not hungry. And there are a lot of people in this world who don't know where their next meal's coming. So I kind of use that as I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that my family's healthy and and we, despite it all, love each other.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I also remind people that Thanksgiving as a holiday was basically brought about because Abraham Lincoln did it during the Civil War to increase morale in the country.
oh,
Uh,
that's right. Yeah.
yeah, and so that was not, the stuff about the Pilgrims and the Native Americans. I understand that, but I the more salient, I think, historical definition is more the one about Lincoln and the Civil War and increasing morale and unity and all that. I think, I don't want anything to lead to like, a land acknowledgement. Like, I can't do that. Like, that's one of the things I agree. I don't agree with Bill Maher often lately, but when he says, either give it back or shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
That's my
Well,
thing.
you know, I I I don't mind when people mention things. Like, so for example, when I was talking to the kids about the name Staten Island, where it comes from, it's a Dutch name because the Dutch settled here. And then, we're also called County Richmond, which is named after the Duke of Richmond, but we were also called Aquahonga, which was, Lenape. So is that a land acknowledgement? No, but it's an acknowledgement of with the three names of, what we were.
Oh, it's not, that's different, but you're not making a pronouncement of it.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah.
know, you're not doing the pronouncement. We're on such and such land. Okay, all right. You know?
Yeah, it's 20 minutes of a meeting before we ever get to business. So, yeah, I have, I'm all about, you know, respecting people, but,
Me
we all have a
too.
lot of stuff to do. Like,
Yeah. And it's virtue signaling. That's what it is. It's not
yeah,
really, what is acknowledging that going to do right now?
I
Like,
don't know.
yeah.
So I want to talk about, how do we prevent injustice? How do we get justice? How do we, make our system more fair? Let's get to that work. And
Well, there's actually was thinking about emailing her and see if she wanted to be on the podcast. There's a woman by the name of Jeannie Safer, who is she's an author, she's a psychologist, but she's married to a conservative. And she's written about being married to a Republican for years, even though she's a Democrat, and that they've had issues over the past, over that. I read her book, and it was a really good book, and it was about interpersonal conflict like this, like what to do around holidays and, things like that. And so her husband is Richard Brookhiser. He is a conservative who writes for the National Review. And, but not, I don't think he's a Trump conservative, like he's not MAGA. And so, but in years past, it was an issue for them. So maybe around Christmas time, I'll see if she's around.
yeah, send her an email, see what she says. It,
Yeah,
it would be. And if anybody who is listening, um, has an interest on coming on our show, send us a DM and
yeah,
we'll talk about if we can bring you here on the show. So that would be nice. Or if you have a topic that you feel we need to address, that would be great. Um,
absolutely. And on that note, this is the Left in the Forgotten Borough podcast. I'm Andrew Savage.
I'm Nancy Richards. We'll see you soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving